My wife and I have always dreamed of celebrating our 40th anniversary with a luxurious vacation. Just the two of us, reliving the romance of our early years. We had it all planned out for years now and were excited beyond words. Enter our adult daughter, Jane. Jane and her husband got wind of our plans and promptly invited themselves and their two children, 9-year-old female, 5-year-old male, along. I originally put my foot down and told them this trip was just for us, which upset her some. But my wife has a hard time saying no to Jane, as she is the youngest of our children and our only daughter, and she didn't want to hurt her feelings, so she reluctantly agreed to let them join. I wasn't thrilled about it at the time, but I wanted to make my family happy, and I knew my wife was also okay with the idea of a family trip. Even if she was heartbroken we wouldn't get our romantic trip, we went along with it. The place we were originally going was not child-friendly, so we changed course and decided on an all-inclusive family-friendly resort. We paid for the resort and our grandchildren's plane tickets. Jane and her husband only had to pay for their own airfare. Here's where things get complicated. As the vacation got closer, I started having a change of heart. I realized that our 40th anniversary was a once-in-a-lifetime milestone, and I wanted to honor it in a way that was true to our original plans. My wife and I might not be able to afford a trip like this again for quite some time, and it's something we always wanted to do. So, without consulting anyone, I switched our tickets last minute to go to the romantic destination that my wife and I had originally planned for. I did not tell Jane or her husband. I didn't even tell my wife until the day before our flight left, which was a day before Jane's flight left for their vacation. It wasn't an easy decision, and I feel guilty about it. But I wanted our 40th anniversary to be the special, intimate celebration we had always hoped for. We called Jane after we landed to tell her, and she was extremely upset, to say the least. She seemed to be of the idea that we were going to look after our grandkids, so she and her husband could have alone time. And now that I abandoned her, they would have to do it all themselves. I hung up on them when my son-in-law started shouting, and my wife and I enjoyed the rest of our trip. They came back the same day we did, but have not answered any of our texts, and Jane seems to be ignoring me. My wife told me she vastly preferred our trip to the family trip we would have taken, but she still doesn't like how Jane is mad at us and wants me to apologize. I'm not sure I want to, after learning Jane and her husband were using us for free babysitting and a free trip, but I feel like I should just to keep the peace. Am I the jerk for changing our trip destination last minute and leaving Jane and her family to fend for themselves? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sorry, but I have to go. Everyone sucks here. I mean, clearly Jane was the jerk, inviting herself, her husband, and her 2 kids along on what was supposed to be a milestone anniversary vacation. And this part makes me absolutely freaking cringe. And GT. She seemed of the idea that we were going to look after our grandkids so she and her husband could have alone time, and now that I abandoned her, they would have to do it all themselves. I hung up on them when my son-in-law started shouting, "You raised an entitled brat," though sometimes how kids turn out has little to do with their parents. But on the other hand, and GT, so without consulting anyone, I switched our tickets last minute to go to the romantic destination that my wife and I had originally planned for. I didn't not tell Jane or her husband. I didn't even tell my wife until the day before our flight left. It wasn't an easy decision, and I feel guilty about it. That guilt? Yeah, that's you knowing the answer to your question, am I the jerk? Now let's be clear. Sometimes we have to be the jerk. Sometimes we have to take action without telling anyone or without being above board. Sometimes we have to spring a surprise on someone who is completely unsuspecting. But that doesn't mean we're not jerks for doing it. Rather than put your foot down and set boundaries, you kind of took the chicken shoot way out of not telling anyone until it was too late for anyone to do anything about it. And honestly, I'm cheering you on for doing it, but it isn't jerk move. Comment 2. Not the idiot. What part of the 40th anniversary trip did your daughter and son-in-law not understand? Oh, boo freaking who. They wanted to spend time alone and designated the grandparents to babysit on what should have been their special trip. If your daughter and son-in-law wanted alone time on a trip, they could have gone on a different trip and politely asked you and your wife to watch the kids while they were away. Not try and hijack your trip. Do not feel guilty, OP, not even for a second. You and your wife have done the parenting of your kids, and now it's time to start enjoying life as a couple again. Sure, you're parents and grandparents, but you're still a couple and deserve to enjoy falling in love with each other all over again. with romantic trips that do not include your offspring or grandkids. Your daughter needs a swift kick of reality right in the tuchus. She had the audacity to invite her family to your romantic weekend with the express purpose of securing babysitters so she could enjoy herself without any thought for her parents. The entitlement is mind-boggling. Comment 3. Not the idiot and your daughter flat out admitting she was planning to have you two be on babysitting duties during your anniversary vacation so her and her husband can get some alone time is so extremely selfish that might almost feel like parental fail. You have catered to her needs seems a bit too much, and she has gotten the idea that your world revolves mainly around her, maybe because she is your youngest. But she is an adult person in a relationship with kids now, so should understand quickly you have your own relationship and life outside being her parent. You did the smart thing, OP. If I were in your place, I'd leave the reach out to Jane to see when she will try to contact you. Communicate all this with your wife too. It is unfair what they had planned for your vacation, and especially when they knew you wanted alone time. You paid for their kids' holiday too, so you are entirely guilt-free about changing your plans. Now, for the update. So, we're 2 weeks into our anniversary vacation now, and you would not believe how things have escalated. Shortly after we landed at our original destination, a stunningly beautiful resort in the Maldives, we received a barrage of incensed texts from Jane. Apparently she couldn't find last-minute childcare, and they were forced to cancel the trip. You could practically hear her seething through the screen. A few days later, we got a call from Jane saying her husband, Mike, had lost his job. It turns out he'd been using company money to fund the vacation they'd planned. He'd been caught after the sudden cancellation revealed the unapproved expenses. I was gobsmacked. Sure, I'd suspected they'd wanted a free trip, but I hadn't thought Mike would stoop that low. My wife was torn between anger at Mike's deceit and sorrow for Jane, who was now in a pretty rough spot. After much deliberation, she convinced me to invite them to join us here in the Maldives, on the condition that they pay their own way. Our guilt at leaving them in the lurch was eased somewhat by the fact that they'd been trying to scam us, but we still felt bad for our grandkids, who were innocent in all this. In an unexpected twist, Jane revealed she'd been squirreling away money from her own job for years, enough to cover the trip. She'd kept it a secret, she admitted, because she hadn't wanted Mike to blow it all on frivolous purchases. I was shocked, but also proud of her foresight. So Jane arrived with the kids yesterday alone. The tension was palpable, but the grandkids were elated. My wife and I decided to give Jane some space and took the kids off her hands for a while. As the day wore on, Jane started to relax and even thanked us for the escape. We haven't heard from Mike since the day he lost his job. Jane doesn't seem too keen on discussing their future. For now, we're just trying to enjoy the rest of our vacation, despite the unexpected company and the unfolding drama. I'll let you know how things go from here. Now for the comments 1. Not the idiot. It seems like you and your spouse were put in a difficult position, especially considering the circumstances. You were under no obligation to invite Jane and her kids to join you on your anniversary vacation, but you did, and you handled the situation with grace. Jane is lucky to have friends like you and your spouse during such a tough time. 2. You're the idiot. Your anniversary vacation is supposed to be a special time for you and your spouse. Instead, you let your spouse convince you to invite Jane and her kids, turning your romantic getaway into a pity party. You should have prioritized your relationship over Jane's issues. You don't owe her anything, especially not at the cost of your own happiness. 3. Everyone sucks here. Mike's actions were clearly wrong, but Jane was also complicit in their actions by planning to use the money Mike embezzled for their vacation. She only decided to use her own savings after Mike got caught. While you and your spouse were trying to be good friends, you ended up enabling Jane's behavior. You should have confronted her about her part in the situation instead of ignoring it and trying to enjoy your vacation. Now for the next story. I, 38-year-old female, cook Asian foods regularly for dinner, and for my daughter Lily's, 7-year-old female, lunches at school. This is because my family enjoys these foods. I like to cook these foods, and my mom cooked a bunch of these foods growing up since she's half Japanese. Oftentimes I'll either give my daughter some leftovers from last night's dinner, plus a fruit, veggie and a snack, or I'll make her a quick little bento box or some other thing really quick. So, after school one day, my daughter wanted to play on the playground for a bit before we went home. I said she could play for a few minutes and she ran off to play. I was waiting next to this other parent who we'll call Deborah. While I was waiting, Deborah came up to me. "Deborah, are you Lily's mother?" Me, "Oh yeah, I am. Why?" Deborah. Well, your daughter's lunches have been bothering my son, and I would like to ask you to pack something else. Me? What? How are they bothering him? She then proceeded to start talking about how her son was complaining about my daughter's lunches smelling terrible, and that he thought it was disgusting. She also said her son didn't eat most of his lunch because he was so grossed out. Me. Okay, I understand your son doesn't like the smell, but can't he just sit somewhere else? Deborah. Are you kidding me? My son shouldn't have to put up with whatever crap you make your daughter bring to this school. It's disgusting. And she started making more vaguely discriminatory complaints, but I was fed up at this point. Me. Listen, I understand your son might not like my daughter's food, but he can very easily just not sit next to her. I'm not changing what's in my daughter's lunches because you and your kid don't want to exist near Asian food. Frick off. She angrily stomped off with her kid then, and my daughter finished playing soon after, so we went home. I talked to my husband about it, and he said that maybe I shouldn't have told her to frick off to avoid her bothering us in the future. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. She was openly discriminatory and aggressive. She gets what she gives. Op. I would contact the school and your kid's teacher and let them know. At point, I think that Deborah's son is sitting near Op's daughter because he likes bullying her about her lunch. Maybe a teacher intervention could prevent further harassment. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Racism should always be called out, and you were right to blow up on her. Though I will admit your husband could have point, as it is a possibility, this is not the end of this conflict. If your child brings up anything about the other lady's kid bullying her or anything, act on it quickly. Comment 3. Not the idiot. That woman 100% earned the frick off. We need to start telling more people to frick off when they think that they should be able to tailor their experience of the world by controlling what other people are doing. Now for the update. I've had a rough month since the incident with Deborah. I wish I could say that it was an isolated event, but sadly it seems to have opened a can of worms that I never expected. My daughter, let's call her Mia, started coming home from school upset and more withdrawn than usual. When I asked her what was wrong, she told me that some of the other kids were teasing her about her lunch. Apparently they were calling it stinky and making fun of the Asian characters on her lunchbox. It broke my heart to see her so devastated. I decided to have a word with Mia's teacher about the situation. To my surprise, she seemed as if she didn't take the issue seriously and suggested that I could just pack normal lunches for Mia to avoid the problem. I was flabbergasted. I tried to explain to her the importance of cultural diversity and respect, but I could tell that my words were falling on deaf ears. It felt like a slap in the face. Meanwhile, things between my husband and me have been tense. He's of the opinion that I've somehow caused this whole situation by confronting Deborah that day on the playground. He thinks I should have just kept my mouth shut and avoided the whole thing. We've been arguing about it almost every night. I feel torn between standing up for my cultural heritage and my daughter's happiness. In the end, I decided to switch Mia's school. It's heart-wrenching, having to move her away from her friends because of this. But the way I see it, I'd rather she grow up knowing it's okay to be different, to be herself. I can only hope that this turns out to be a good decision in the long run. I miss the simpler times when the only thing I had to worry about was finding new recipes to cook for my family. Now I find myself cooking comfort food, my mother's recipes, my grandmother's recipes, trying to find some solace in their familiar flavors. It's a small reassurance that no matter what, I can always find a piece of home in our meals, even when the world outside feels so hostile. It's been a tough month, and I still find myself second-guessing my decisions. Was it wrong to stand my ground that day? I can't say for sure. But I do know that I can't and won't compromise when it comes to preserving our culture and identity. It's a part of who we are, and I will always fight for it. Now for the comments. 1. Not the idiot. Your responsibility as a parent is to ensure your child's happiness and well-being. It's not fair for Mia to have to change who she is just to fit in. The teacher's suggestion to pack normal lunches is insensitive and lacks cultural awareness. I commend you for standing up for your traditions and teaching Mia the importance of embracing her heritage. 2. Not the idiot. It's clear that you're trying to preserve your cultural identity, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's disheartening that the school isn't providing a more inclusive environment for Mia. Switching schools may be a drastic step, but if it benefits Mia in the long run, then it's worthwhile. It's crucial to instill in her the value of her heritage and not feel ashamed of it. 3. Not the idiot. The fact that your husband isn't supporting you during this difficult time is concerning. He should be backing you up and standing up for his daughter's rights. It's not about avoiding confrontation, it's about teaching Mia to be proud of who she is. You're doing the right thing by prioritizing her happiness and mental health. Now for the next story. My son burps a lot while eating. I have tried telling him multiple times that it is rude. I have told him to slow down so he doesn't swallow air with his food. I have told him that it is disgusting. My wife will instantly jump in to defend him. She will say that's just the way he is and that it's not his fault. The thing is, he can control himself when I remind him. He just chooses not to. He just went on a date with his girlfriend last night and she tore him a new jerk. It was his first time meeting her parents since they live in another city. They went out to a fancy restaurant and he burped all the way through supper. He came home almost in tears from her chewing him out for behaving like a jackass in front of her family. I heard him telling my wife about it and I laughed. She asked what was so funny, and I reminded them both that I had tried dozens, if not hundreds of times, to teach him table manners and he rejected them, and she protected him. I said that now he is a grown man and he had to learn the hard way. They both think she overreacted and that I'm the jerk for being amused by his experience. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. They both think she overreacted and that I'm the jerk for being amused by his experience, not the idiot. You laughed at something that was completely predictable and really shouldn't have surprised him. He needed to be laughed at since he still hasn't learned and is blaming the GF. His mother has coddled him for so long and he's so thick that he'll have to learn this the hard way again and again until he finally realizes that the problem is with him and not with other people. Comment 2. Not the idiot. OP, to vote this way, I'm taking a leap of faith that you and his doctor have eliminated the possibility that your son has a medical issue, and I'm assuming he's just an immature and poorly socialized young man. Sadly, I have known a few young men who think they can belch and fart around girlfriends and their parents, same as they do with frat brothers. Still, consider apologizing for laughing at his situation and introduce him to the Art of Manliness website. Comment 3. LOL. Not the idiot, that's so funny. It's pretty common knowledge burping at the table is rude, except for in some cultures. Your wife is a huge AH for encouraging this behavior his entire life. She really did him over. I don't blame the girlfriend for getting mad. She had every right to be pissed for her BF acting like a total jackass in front of her parents. Now for the update. The past 2 weeks have been a whirlwind. Our son's burping issue has taken a turn none of us expected. While my wife and I thought the burping incident was the height of it, our son was apparently just getting started. First, he breaks up with his girlfriend. Why, you may ask? Over a disagreement about the burping. Or so we thought. Turns out our son had been seeing another girl behind his girlfriend's back for a month already. The burping was just a convenient reason to end things, according to him. My wife was devastated, but I couldn't help but find the situation a bit ironic. But it doesn't stop there. We were invited to a family dinner function a couple of days later, where our son's burping antics were again on full display. This time, however, the reaction was completely different. My brother, it turns out, is a gastroenterologist and he immediately expressed concern. Apparently, excessive burping can signify a serious digestive issue. I was taken aback. My wife was furious I hadn't taken it more seriously, but hey, I'm not the one who kept defending him, am I? With the concern of potential health issues, we took our son to the gastroenterologist the next day. The doctor conducted a series of tests, and guess what? Our son was diagnosed with aerophagia, a condition where you swallow too much air, leading to frequent belching. It's not usually serious, but it does require mindfulness and lifestyle changes to control. So now, our son's been told by a professional that he needs to control his burping, the same thing I'd been saying all along. I may have allowed myself a small smirk at that. My wife saw it, though, and let's just say that I'm currently navigating my way through a cold war at home. In addition, we've had to deal with the fallout from his now ex-girlfriend and her friends, all while our son is dating this new girl who, by the way, seems to find the burping endearing. I tell you, I couldn't write this stuff even if I tried. So that's how our son's burping drama escalated into potential health issues, a breakup, a new girlfriend, and frigid temperatures in our household. Who would have imagined burping could lead to such chaos, right? I'm just rolling with the punches now and keeping my fingers crossed for some semblance of normalcy in the near future. Now, for the comments. Not the idiot. The son's burping issue is not something he can control, especially since it's a diagnosed condition. His father's reaction seems insensitive, given that he should be more supportive in helping his son manage his condition. People with aerophagia need understanding and assistance to deal with their condition, not mockery or indifference. Everyone sucks here. The son was clearly in the wrong for cheating on his girlfriend, regardless of the burping issue. However, the family's reaction is also concerning. While it's understandable they are worried about his health, they should also address his actions towards his ex-girlfriend. This situation calls for a serious discussion about honesty and respect in relationships. You're the idiot. For the son's new girlfriend, she seems to be accepting of his condition, which is a good thing. However, the family should not be encouraging this relationship until the son has properly addressed his actions and the hurt he caused his ex-girlfriend. The family seems to be more focused on the burping issue than the son's actions, which is a problem. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.